Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to build a gantry to lift off the convertible top of a BMW Z4. A lot of people talk about doing this with two people, but I figure in the shop they must use a gantry, probably a rolling gantry that they fasten onto this bracket. So what I've set up here is using my garage rails. I have vertical support. I used an existing hole in this side. On the other side I had to drill my own hole. I got a ladder going across and a couple ropes, and I made the support bracket to fasten right to the superstructure of the convertible top using some 3/4 inch square pipe and a 2x4. Now, I figure when I start lifting it out, it's going to tilt back. So I've got a blanket ready on the top of the trunk. I'm thinking that I'll hoist one side at a time and just lash it to the 2x4. So let's go over the stuff I've done before this. In another video you can find I've disconnected the 3 connectors on one side, 1 electrical connection on the other side, taped around the top, and I went another step and put a blanket around the whole thing because everyone warns so frequently about scratching the paint. I removed the 7 bolts on the aluminum frame that hold the top to the trunk. I removed the rubber weather stripping around the top. I removed the door gasket to get to this panel to take off the electrical connections. And I popped the 2 aluminum brackets that are holding the front right in this vicinity inside. I can't show you from this angle. I don't think we can see them now, but I popped those loose. So we're ready to try lifting the top off. I'm going to just start lifting up on this thing and seeing if I can cinch it as I go. And I'll lift up on the other side and tighten the rope. Something's grabbing. Maybe it's that clip. There might be a bar here. Oh, here we go. So once I got it high enough that I could start to see the brackets that attach the T-nuts, or star nuts, whatever they're called, it started resisting. And it resisted right around the weather stripping. So it really doesn't fit out with the roof down. So I lifted the roof up and it started to give free. At this point I had to put a padding between my 2x4 and the window seal so it doesn't get damaged. But now I can see the thing is starting to be completely free on its own weight on the gantry. Okay, now let's see if I can get it completely free. This side comes out very easily. The other was resisting a little bit. That's where the hydraulic motor is. I feel like there's something caught a little bit. I have to study it a little more. Okay, I can see what the latest problem was. It's the hydraulic motor getting hung up by about a ½ inch on the aluminum clip on the driver's side. So I'm thinking I just push it toward the passenger side a little bit and it should clear it. Now let me show you a close-up of the right side. I had to jostle it a little to work it free, but now you can see this is the bracket where the 2 main supports, I think they're T40 bolts, go in. You can see the bottom is just slotted, so you don't have to remove that bolt entirely. The top you have to remove entirely. Okay, here we are with the roof pulled all the way up, and I noticed that I just made it to be able to drive out without anyone holding the roof out of the way. By the way, I never mentioned how I was handling the ropes. I just did a little cinch loop so I could just relieve the pressure on it, pull it up, and cinch the knot each time. The hydraulic side, the water was actually draining. You can see the drain hole down there. But on the other side, it is actually full of water, which is the problem that a lot of people have that causes the hydraulic motor to go bad. In fact, if I get the light right, you can see there's a leaf in there that's actually clogging the drain hole. Good news, I got this little motor from my 2007 BMW Z4 convertible top working again. I thought I was going to have to drill through the retaining dimples, but didn't free up anything. So then I noticed I could just pound off the plate by hitting it with a nail set. I had to do the same thing with this nylon. It's actually a circuit board underneath. I'm not an electronics guy. The only thing that looks like it could possibly be an electronics part is that it looks like a spring. For all I know, it's just a spring on the brushes. And if you've done any mechanical work at all, you might not be too surprised to know that what brought it back to life was just taking it apart and putting it back together again. Maybe it was just the rust between the parts of the motor, the magnets and the windings, prevented it from working. So I'll probably take it apart one more time, or take the winding out one more time, and do a light sand with some wet or dry sandpaper. Otherwise, it responds to voltage, and we'll see if it's consistent. Okay, I put the motor back together again. I resisted temptation and didn't try to clean out the inside. I figured if it worked, then just having it spin would probably be good enough. I put a little bit of oil on the bearing on each end and hammered it back in place, and dimpled over these little connections. And you know, so this is a 13-year-old motor. It's not its fault that its parents didn't give it swimming lessons and threw it in a swimming pool, but here you go. I thought I'd just show you. There it is spinning, not too easy to see. But next step is to put it back in the car. I'm probably going to mount it in the trunk, according to another video I saw that actually gave some good advice about replacing the BMW unit with the hydraulic unit motor and hydraulic unit from a 2009 to 2014 Mustang. It has the identical 4 hydraulic lines, and he showed mounting it in his trunk. So look for that if you're not inclined to rebuild your BMW motor. It's the same manufacturer, judged by the serial number. It's an HB 869-002M that's on the Mustang. So pretty clearly a suitable replacement. I was going to take the advice of a guy who said to put the motor in the trunk and replace it, in fact, with a Mustang 2009 to 14 pump. And in doing so, I realized I had to lengthen the wires. I didn't do that in advance, didn't think of it. And I had to lift the top back up to split the wires. At which point I realized I think you can do this job without literally, the entire job, without literally lifting the entire convertible top off. If you just are able to pull the aluminum trim piece out and lift the back window enough, like you see it here, you can get a lot of access to that motor. There's where my motor is toward the trunk. All right, folks, look at this. After rebuilding the actual motor by pulling the windings out, putting them back in, and bleeding the whole hydraulic unit and 2 of the lines, it's working again. I probably have to bleed the other 2 lines, but the connectors on there were a little bit curious, so I didn't get to them yet. But we're pretty much over the hurdle, and the only thing now is to put the damn thing back together. Check this out. After having a 2007 BMW hydraulic top motor drenched in water and pulling the windings out, putting it back in, even having a capacitor or resistor fall off. I put it all back together, and lo and behold, let's see if it works. Not as smoothly as before. But there's down, and let's see if it does up twice in a row. It struggles a little. I think I still have to bleed some more air out. That was the second hardest part after the major hassle of trying to align the main structural supports. Next up, I'm going to try to replace the motor. Since it's suspicious, I'm going to try to replace the motor with the 2009 to 14 Mustang hydraulic motor and pump. And also try to document whether you can do all this work without taking the roof off structurally, but only removing the aluminum loop at the back and pulling that up to access the swimming pool where the motor is.